of you. I, Shiral Salim, along with my co-host Simran Feroz, are extremely honored and privileged to welcome you all to the North Zone Neocon 2023, hosted by Government Medical College Anantnag in the Serene Valley of Kashmir.
I feel extremely glad to welcome each and every one of you here on the first day of this much awaited conference. The theme for the North Zone Neocon 2023 is Intact Neonate, Intact Nation. It gives me immense pleasure to be standing in front of you all. That's amongst the most bestowed personalities who have won accolades in their respective fields. It's our honor to present all the speakers and the chairpersons of the pre-lunch session who have come from all across the country to share their knowledge, their experiences, their techniques in order to improve neonatal health as a common goal and passion for all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin this scientific feast with our first session on maternal morbidities, what need to manage in a neonate. I'm extremely pleased and honored to welcome all the chairpersons, Dr. Alok Gupta, pediatrician, counselor, environmentalist, Dr. Neetu Sangwan, professor in obstetrics and gynecology at PGIMS Rohtak, Dr. Rizwana Habib Khan, head of Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Government Medical College, Srinagar. A big round of applause for all of them. The speaker of this session is Dr. Kamal Arora. I would request Dr. Kamal Arora to join us on the podium. Now, I request the chairpersons to introduce our speaker to our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, organizers of the North Zone Neocon 2023, for giving me an opportunity to be here before you. It is indeed a pleasure to be in the wonderful city of Srinagar and Kashmir, and which is a heaven on earth. Our first speaker is Dr. Kamal Arora, sir. His present designation is Professor of Neonatology, Department of Pediatrics, Jayanand Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana. His qualifications is DM Neonatology from AIMS, Fellowship RCPC at Liverpool Women's Hospital, UK, MD Pediatrics, Senior Residency from PGIM Chandigarh. His special interests are neonatal functions, echocardiography, point-of-care neonatal sonography, and brain monitoring in neonates, amplitude EEG. He has published 32 index publications, neonatal protocols, and also authored a book, AIMS, Neonatal Protocol and Neonatal Equipment book, where he has contributed. His current positions are, he is a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics, IAP, NNF, the NNF Fellowship Core Committee member, Executive member of the Punjab NNF chapter, NNF Accreditation Committee member, National Trainer of Neonatal Resuscitation in IAP as well as NNF, and he has been faculty for conferences of more than 40 local, state and national conferences. I welcome Dr. Kamal Arora, sir, to deliver his talk.
Thank you, Dr. Alok, for such a nice introduction. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the first opening session for this and giving a session over in Kashmir, the paradise on earth. And starting with because it's like a starting session, the starting is with the mothers. So we start with the maternal conditions first. And ma'am is already there, Dr. Neetu ma'am. So we start with the sessions. I think we are around 10-15 minutes late. I'll try to catch up the session fast. So we have the maternal morbidities and the neonatal outcomes. So they are so strongly related to each other. They are like married. We say the gynecologist and pediatrician or the neonatologist are married to each other. So let's discuss about few maternal morbidities and what are the neonatal outcomes with that. So these are the top. There are so many of morbidities on maternals. I can't discuss all of them, but these are a few of them which I could list were the most important ones. So the first is the hypertension, the preeclampsia. I would like, ma'am, if there are any inputs from the maternal side. We have hypertension and preeclampsia the first. We know this is the major morbidity which happens with so many of the moms. So we categorize as a chronic hypertension, hypertension preceding pregnancy or first diagnosed before 20 weeks of gestation. A chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia, like a known chronic hypertension plus a worsening hypertension and new onset proteinuria after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Gestational hypertension, hypertension without proteinuria after 20 weeks of gestation and returns to normal by 12 weeks postpartum. Preeclampsia is hypertension plus proteinuria after 20 weeks of gestation. Eclampsia, new onset generalized tonic-clonic seizures, activity in pregnancy, usually associated with hypertension and proteinuria. And HELP syndrome, that we all know this, hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and the low platelet count. So this is what I could categorize here. So we all know the pathophysiology of this, that there is something which is an healthy endothelium and a damaged endothelium. So I'm not going into the detail of this. Incidence is around 5 to 8%, and this accounts for nearly 15 to 20% of the maternal deaths worldwide. So it is a major morbidity here. Risk factors are so many: nulliparity, multifetal gestation, preeclampsia in the previous pregnancy, pre-existing chronic hypertension, pre-gestational, gestational diabetes, thrombophilia, SLEs, pregnancy in the body mass index more than 30. So obesity, I'll discuss about obesity later on. Maternal age more than 35, any kidney disease, IVF or any assisted ARTs, or obstetric sleep apneas. So first, the maternal morbidities. Mother can have the seizures, intracerebral hemorrhage, and blindness, pulmonary edema, hepatic renal failure, and DICs. There are so many, these are just few of them. What happens to the baby actually? The definite treatment is always delivery if the gestation is more than 37 weeks. And if the gestation is less than 37 weeks with preeclampsia, but without any severe features, we can still have a close watch on that. Any gestation less than 37 weeks with preeclampsia, with severe features, delivery should be done if gestation is more than 34 weeks, and if less than 34 weeks, if mother has an issue, then we should try to cover up with the steroids and then do the delivery if possible. So this is a treatment of severe preeclampsia, this is the same. Mode of delivery, important thing is it is not necessarily a cesarean section. Sometimes they say it is mother is having so much hypertension, so delivery should be done by any route actually. So for the baby, we have a dysfunctional placenta. What happens there is increased resistance to placental flow. We all know this absent diastolic flow and the reversal diastolic flow with increased SD ratios, so the baby is compromised here. So this is what we have, the absent diastolic flow in the Doppler and the reversal of flows. So in fetus, what can happen is fetal hypoxia or the death. Sudden deaths are known for this. And the mother usually says कि पहले तो नहीं पता था, अभी just पता लगा एक हफ्ता पहले इतने में कैसे हो गया compromised fetus. That's a common question. Prematurity, again IVGR, placental abruption, abnormal endothelial dilatation and arterial thickening, and pulmonary hypertension. These are the common morbidity which can happen in the newborn. So we get this type of a baby with an IVGR baby, and then clinical IVGR is very common with this. Even if the baby is not an SGA baby, we should think about managing the baby with an SGA because these are clinically IVGR babies. Next morbidity is maternal diabetes mellitus. So the pre-gestational diabetes, we have a White's classification for this, which we do. So in the pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, the incidence is nearly 1 to 2% of all pregnancies and 13-21% of diabetes in the pregnancy. So maternal complications are miscarriage, preeclampsia, gestational hypertension, polyhydramnios, preterm deliveries, worsening diabetic complication, and increased need of cesarean deliveries because the babies are usually the macrosomic babies. Neonatal complications are many, so I'll discuss the congenital malformations just a bit, and there can be IVGR babies as well as macrosomic babies. So congenital malformations, the most, I would say not the common, but the most important is the TOF, the TGA, septal defects. VSD is one of the most common, TAKPC. In the brain, we have anencephaly, spina bifida, encephalocele, hydrocephaly, and there can be microtia or anotia. Urogenital defects, limb defects, orofacial clefts, sacral agenesis and caudal dysplasia. This is the specific for the if the diabetes are uncontrolled. It's not the common, but it's the most important, the most specific I would say. This is the White's classification where we have the gestational diabetes, the GDM on diet, GDM with insulin, class A, class B, class C. I'm not going into detail of this, but it depends upon how much duration it is. And like for the class B is insulin independent, onset after 20 years, but the duration is less than 10 years. In the class C, it would be the onset would be earlier and the duration will be more. Class D, so onset is before 10 years and duration more than 20 years. So we have a class, then we have class F with nephropathy, R is retinopathy, R and F, both the criteria are there. G is all the genital urinary reproductive failures. H, clinical evidence of any heart disease and prior renal transplantation. So this is the White's classification. So in the maternal complication, maternal morbidity, we have in the pregnancy there can be preeclampsia, preterm deliveries in the labor, operative deliveries are more common, and in the postpartum recurrent GDM and type 2 diabetes like I said. For the neonatal complications, this is we can have the congenital, the malformation we already discussed. There can be LJ babies, the microsomic babies. In the postnatal, we have the prematurity, parental asphyxias, respiratory distress syndrome, metabolic complications are many. We need to always monitor the sugars, hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, the polycythemia, hyperbil, and the cardiomyopathy. So we know this for the hypoglycemia, we all know the Peterson hypothesis that the maternal sugar crosses the placenta, but the insulin doesn't cross. So the babies are at more risk of hypoglycemia. Long-term complications, there can be obesity, type 1 and type 2 both, diabetes and metabolic syndromes. So this is like an embryopathy, this is like a fetopathy, and this is more like a neonatopathy. So this is what the classification they are given. So the maternal management is strict euglycemic control, detailed fetal anomaly scan. This is very important. Fetal echo should be done in these cases if you know that there is gestational hypertension at 18 weeks with a level 2 scan. Serial fetal growth monitoring. Delivery, uncomplicated cases, nearly 39 to 40 weeks you can go. Complicated cases, 36 to 39 weeks, because sudden deaths are known with if there is uncontrolled diabetes. Mode, cesarean in the microsomic babies, otherwise it can be both ways. The baby, for the infanto-diabetic mother, we need to do serum glucose monitoring, early start of feeds, and screening for metabolic complications. The third disease is a thyroid disease in neonate. The maternal hypothyroidism is incidence is nearly 0.3 to 0.5% for the overt thyroid disease and subclinical 2 to 2.5%. So what are the causes? We all know this: iodine insufficiency, autoimmune thyroiditis, surgical thyroidectomy already done, drug or radiation induced, congenital hypothyroidism, and pituitary dysfunction. Presentation in the mother is usually with a weight gain, cold intolerance, or maybe picked up as just a screening part in the maternal line. So untreated patients, the maternal complication can be spontaneous abortions. Simple hypothyroidism causes this spontaneous abortion, preeclampsia, postpartum hemorrhages, and placental abruption. Neonatal outcomes, prematurity, IUGR, congenital anomalies, fetal distress, neurodevelopmental impairments. One of the most treatable cause of maternal this mental retardation is hypothyroidism. We all know this. Fetal and perinatal death. Treated patients deliver healthy infants. Increase the usual dose of L-thyroxine by 25 to 30% with regular monitoring of thyroid function tests. I think many people will agree with that. We have a subclinical hypothyroidism also, so we need to increase the dose here. So this is thyroid swelling in the fetus. I'll skip this one. For the newborn, we have to send the newborn screen at 48 to 72 hours. I think all of the units are doing this. None of the units would miss this part. At 48 to 72 hours, we send the newborn screening. We usually send the TSH, but if you have any doubt, send both TSH and T4 so that we don't miss the central hypothyroidism. So we can have 4 scenarios: normal T4, normal TSH. This is normal one. So low T4, normal TSH, low T4, high TSH, and normal T4, high TSH. I'll just go through fast for this screening part. So if you have a low T4 and a normal TSH, repeat free T4 and TSH. Repeat the free T4. If you have normal free T4, then suspect thyroid binding globulin deficiency. If you have a low free T4, then it can be transient hypothyroxemia or the central hypothyroidism. We should not miss this part. So for the low T4 and high TSH, repeat free T4 and TSH again. Transient or permanent hypothyroidism, we need to start treatment here as early as possible. So we should not miss that window period where we can cover up the mental attraction, the brain development part. If you have a normal T4 and high TSH, repeat free T4 and TSH. It can be a subclinical hypothyroidism if the TSH is more than 20 and start the treatment. If TSH between 6 to 20, repeat free T4 and TSH weekly until normal. Start treatment if TSH remains more than 10 and or there is a rising trend. So start L-thyroxine at 10 to 50 microgram per kg oral. Recheck T4 and TSH. How do we recheck? At 2 to 4 weeks after start of therapy, then every 1 to 2 months in first 6 months, every 3 to 4 months between 6 months and 3 years of age, and every 6 to 12 months from 3 years of age at end of COVID. COVID in pregnancy, I think we have seen many cases of COVID in pregnancy. It can come again, we never know this thing. So I just touched upon this COVID, what happens with COVID in pregnancy. So respiratory droplets containing COVID-19 the main determinant for if the mother will spread or not. The vascular route is also known through the placenta, but this is the main route. So COVID-19 spreads through the maternal vasculature also. Symptoms, mother gets a fever, dry cough, fatigue, diarrhea and myalgias. So immune response with increased inflammatory markers and multi-organ failure can happen with the mom. Specific precautions, wash hands carefully and regularly, cover nose and mouth, you all know this. Keep a distance of 1 meter, avoid touching eyes, nose and mouth, we all know the basic things. So in utero, vertical transmission can happen through the septus, this is now published. Presence of the viral genome in vaginal swabs, placental tissue and cord plasma is there. Presence of COVID antibodies in cord, blood and milk, there is evidence for this. So post-natal transmission, breastfeeding has a low risk, so we encourage breastfeeding. If the mother is sick, then we keep the mother away, but we keep on giving another donor milk. The mother's express milk. Environmental exposure has a high risk. So there can be prematurity, fetal distress, IUGR and SGS. Fever can happen with the baby, respiratory distress, thrombocytopenia with impaired LFTs, arrhythmias, feed intolerance and pneumothorax. These are the complications which are published. So the main issue was last time was breastfeeding deni ki nahi deni. So mother and baby both are stable. They should be roomed in, direct breastfeeding by the mother with face and mask and face mask and hand hygiene. Mother and baby